Good evening, everyone. It's a great opportunity to be here with you this evening. My name is Brian Ngaka. I'm somebody from Modi. I'm the founder and CEO of Journalist Fellowship Award in Uganda. It's an interdenominational government of young people. And we teach the work of the living God as our tool. And the Bible is our instrument of mentoring the young people. I help with the ministry again with Stakeholder, systematic ways by that. I am an advocate by profession. I'm a qualified lawyer. I practice with MS and market accountant for it, and I sit in the office of Aduba. I also sit in the together with PSR. I am the legal advisor of PSR and one of the founding members. This journey of the legal work involving this role has been an interesting one. And before I go into my presentation, I would want to give you a small snippet of actually how we met. I was given the privilege by Mr. Jerry 2 days before publishing to be accurate, close to midnight, to deliver a foreword by 6 a.m. And the copy was available to my email at midnight. And Jerry knows my life. Reading is what I do. In a year, I read not less than 66 books. And that is what I do. Every day of my life is reading. And so he told me, I trust you. I have no doubt in you that you will deliver. I remember that very night, I read this book 8 times in the night because I wanted to have a feel of what the author is communicating. Because I believe the foreword is the first thing a reader will see in the book. And then I must give a precise and accurate representation of the message and the intentions of the writer. And when I delivered the foreword, it was at 3 a.m. in the night. That's when I sent my email. I had not seen, I'd seen this once, when actually she came to contract PSR. And I had not seen her, and she didn't know who wrote the foreword. And so after the book was published, she wrote to Jerry and said, I would love to see Mr. Ngaka Brian, who wrote the foreword, and appreciate it. Instead of having a conversation about the foreword, we ended up sharing a lot of details. 30 minutes meeting ended up about 3 hours, or close to 4 hours. Because there was a lot we could talk about and contribute about. And before I begin, I have a story that I want to share with you. In the liberal work, our tool is to claim accurately with knowledge and use it in a way that we communicate our hearts. I don't believe in writing that has not communicated the essence of a being. I don't believe in such writings. I believe in a being writing that should communicate what human beings can identify with, what can project our life, either in history, or in the present, or in the future. And so in this Trinity group, I am very delighted to be part of this journey of your life. It's the first foreword that I wrote. You can imagine. It's an amazing thing for me to experience that. Many years ago, in India, on the front page of the newspaper, a story appeared about a young attractive lady who left home to earn a living. And I give you a summary of the story. At 17 years old, a beautiful young lady called Priya decided to go to the biggest city in India. Within hours of her arrival, the very friend who enticed her with a promise of big money mercilessly raped her. Thus began a 14-year stretch of untold headache and tragedy. As if to mend Priya's own spirit, the friend found her a job as esteem stress. Esteem stress in our local contemporary English is a tailor. So that even the prayer found no relief from the blundering ways of those she had cast her lot upon. She was soon found being used and abused to deviant ends, only with a new twist. She was paid for satisfying their diverse pleasures. It's a linguistic way of communicating hunger. Fate struck hard upon one day when she became pregnant. A few months in her profession, she had to put a hold. Inevitably, financial strains had to come in, and she could hardly wait to give birth to the child, so that she could give away the child, and then return to the business of selling her own body. But the more devastating shock awaited her, she discovered that she was HIV positive. She would not discontinue her life, for she needed the money to treat her disease and hang on to life. Her hand collapsed and almost vengeful. She continued to sell her services to very many customers. And the newspaper indicated, because she had a record, she wrote a book where every person she slept was recorded. And they included bankers, they included businessmen, they included lawyers, they included doctors, and she kept a detailed record of them, of where she slept with them, of how long they spent in that activity. So she knew she was signing the death warrant of each man, but she was growing in despair, and her life lost all value. Marks of diseases, bitterness, blessedness, blanketed her body. She resorted to desperate methods in search of a cure, even boiling a pot and drinking the water, which was a practice in India that they believed would heal HIV. So she began to do this. She made numerous attempts to kill herself, only to fail each time. She decided to poison herself. And after poisoning herself, she set the house she was in ablaze. She died alone, and not far from her, others were doing the same activity, thinking their end is different from us. Ladies and gentlemen, if you read this book, Before Your Twilight Fades, the impacts of this book relate to Victorian theory. Very fortunate to unfortunate, in India it was reported of a lady, but this is the story we are faced with every day. Every single day. My task then is to give you my experience of writing the foreword, and to make you understand how the foreword came about. And this is broken into three statements. One is my insight into the themes in the book. Two is the message in the book. And then three are the significances of this book. And so I will begin with the themes in the book. The ED of Wenda organization, Edwin elaborated towards some of them. And I have now used to add to what he and I will venture into other places. This book talks about the family life. I'm not going to talk about it. He Edwin talked about it. This book then talks about relationships. Very important in the life of a young man. Very, very important, especially we're targeting the donation of this book to schools. And so we need to make them understand that relationship is one of the key and most essential values in transaction. It's a currency. But when not rightly understood and used, the repercussions are priceless, especially if they are in the negative manner. Two, it talks about the gender-based violence, which is the major thing in the book. And I will delve into that. Before Your Twilight is an amazing story. He uses literally our local dialect. The names we can relate to. It's not a name like Shakespeare you even fail to pronounce because maybe you didn't go to a medical school where the English teacher was good. You understand? But this is where you can read this name. We have Adia, we have Santika. These are names in our dialect. And it makes it easy for you and me to blend, to relate. When gender-based violence that is being reported here, why so? We don't see it as a foreigner participating in gender-based violence. Maybe your brother's name is Chandiga, maybe your follower's name is Abiria. And so this brings the book to reality. So that you're able to know what is the thing here. It's not talking about a westernized ideology. It's talking about a real life story happening in our communities. Ladies and gentlemen, if anyone is in this room here and he is born in West Nile, and you were born before 1990, and you are here to confess to me that you have not witnessed and reported gender-based violence before God and land in your life, especially if you are nobody. Now, the theme of gender-based violence in this book is not talking about the ones in the police books. I'm a lawyer by profession because I have the heart. I know the pain they go through. When we interact on client-based agreements with them to narrate for you the orders they go through, sometimes I am heartbroken when I see our sisters and mothers leave their husbands that I was beaten, and they come to the relatives' home to ask for help. Instead of having the right way of recognizing our Lord and our God, first, they recognize culture first. He rightly said, a woman takes the husband to police. We are going for. We don't have Luba here. What are we going for? Aruba. You see, one of the challenges this book addresses is to give the victims the boldness to rise above the negative and deadly demonic cultural practices which are causing a lot of damage to our mothers and our fathers. I will tell you a story that I personally know no one told it to me because I physically had to separate a woman and a man because the problem was their son. I had to do that, but I would not report to police because back then, 10 years ago, I was an ardent follower of the Ngaka culture without distinction, the good practices and the wrong practices. We found God, a representative from the Catholics here. These are one of the things this book is quoting to the cultural organizations. Let us come with the victims. Let us rule away this Aruba thing. People are dying. People are in torment. The greatest victim of GD in West Nile are the women, not the men. If men are there, they are very lean and very meaningful. But the greatest victims are the men. And so this book brings this thing to life. And I have to fix myself into this. Put myself in a situation where this lady was being beaten and tormented, so that I could feel the pain the writer puts in the book, so that my forward should carry an emotion, should carry a feeling, that when a student, a reader, gets this book in their hands, there should be sense, there should be remorse, there should be love, there should be repentance. The second part of this book talks about the message. The message is very clear. One, a deliberate move to collaborate and ensure zero tolerance to GBV. And the GBV this book talks about are the ones that are not being reported, to which Because I have a place where I speak the word of the living God. That gives me opportunity of a double-edged side in the social life and in the legal life. So I interact with both. And I've had to meet in my social life responsibility, the spiritual, the same practices. And in my legal life, I've had to be the same. And so I know the message of this book is to reconcile both the religious leaders, the cultural leaders, the politicians, the police, the lawyers, the magistrates, or the judges, to understand how they ought to treat a GBV case that at least comes to their table. Because the trauma these people go through to have their cases registered. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are over, you know it's beyond measure. For a woman to stand before in our communities and say, my husband is beating me and I'm going to police to report this case, is terrorism. Yeah, we can laugh, but I know it's a declaration of war on manhood. It's a declaration of war. Especially the perpetrators. Amen. 2, we need to believe and have hope in family life. Even though we see a lot of burdens in the book, the writer still brings towards the comfort that the new generation can have hope in marriage. We can have hope in families. Number 3, we need to evolve and innovate a systematic transformation mindset for the new generation. Least they will learn from our grandfathers, and they will do the things they did. Are we together? I go to the third part. I'm hiding myself. In the third part, moderator, I timed myself. I have 2 minutes and 12 seconds. The insight of significance of this book. 1, we need to get these books out. 1, the message of GDV, which I'm reporting, can reach the schools. Because the people who are going to marry 10 years from now are in schools. We need to tell them there's a story you need to know. This book is a weapon for them to be humble, so that they know what awaits them and the knowledge they need to attain, so that they can maneuver family life. Be ready for the worst case scenarios in family lives. 2, call to duty by all stakeholders. This is one of them. When stakeholders are engaged to agree that we need to get at least 10,000 copies to the schools, I will be glad that we who are here are able to contribute immensely, not tomorrow, but by committing today. Number 3, we must prioritize zero tolerance on GBV instances, no matter which place you are in, whether in the mosque or in the church, in the club, or whatever it is, zero tolerance. In conclusion, I quote for you Peter Hammond in his book, The Restless Sensory of Mission. This is the current book I'm reading. And in text 2, and paragraph 4, he quotes Karl Marx. And this is what he says. Karl Marx declared that the first battlefield is in the rewriting of history. Wars are won in writing. Transformations are done in writing. And we thank God, the author of this book, Miss Trinity Toronto, has laid the battle. She has sounded the trumpet. And we need to arise and join with her and take this message to the answer. Be the ambassadors of this book to the schools where they're going and communicate the true representation of this book to them who cannot read. Be the one to narrate it to them. That there is hope for our ladies to live a dignified life. There is hope for our marriages in reconciliation of culture, religion, and governance, so that accordingly our constitution under the national directives uphold family as the foundation of our nation. God upholds family as the foundation of the church. And therefore, it is each and everyone's responsibility to make sure that this donation succeeds. And I will be in this. if the exposition of this forward does not move you. Otherwise, thank you so much. My time is up. God bless you. And I am.
Yes,